Hello and welcome. I'm Thomas Porteous and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top headlines of the hour. The US Justice Department releases 3 million pages and thousands of images and videos linked to Jeffrey Epstein. Officials say the move aims to meet transparency and legal requirements. Venezuela's acting president Delcy Rodriguez announces plans for a general amnesty for political violence cases. Authorities also say the El Helicoide prison will be closed. Thousands march in Minneapolis against President Trump's immigration crackdown. The protests follow the deaths of 2 US citizens during federal operations. Washington announces additional sanctions tied to Iran. The move comes as tensions remain high despite talk of possible negotiations. The United States approves a $9 billion sale of Patriot missiles to Saudi Arabia. The deal comes as regional tensions with Iran remain high. More than 200 people die in a collapse at the Rabaya coltan mine in eastern DR Congo. The site produces about 15% of the world's coltan and is held by rebels. US senators pass a Trump-backed deal to limit the impact of a government shutdown. But a weekend funding lapse is still set because the House is not in session. US authorities charge journalist John Lemon with civil rights violations over covering an anti-ICE protest in Minnesota. The case raises fresh questions about press freedom in the US. Those are the top headlines for the hour, and the US Justice Department has released more than 3 million pages of documents, videos, and photos from the Epstein files. The department has rejected claims that it seeks to protect US President Donald Trump. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche has stated that the Department of Justice is complying with the Epstein Files Transparency Act, stressing that extensive redactions are necessary to protect victims and sensitive material. Let's in fact listen in to what Blanche has said.
I mean, yes, I can assure that we complied with the statute, we complied with the act, and there is no, we did not protect President Trump, we didn't protect or not protect anybody. I mean, I think that there's a hunger or a thirst for information that I do not think will be satisfied by the review of these documents. And there's nothing I can do about that.
Meanwhile, according to media reports, the latest Epstein Files release includes a list of allegations against Trump. This reportedly includes a list of sexual assault allegations related to the president that was compiled by the FBI in August of 2025. Joining us now is Major General Sudhakar G, a senior strategic and international affairs expert, joining us live from Jaipur. Thank you very much, Major General G, for joining us here on NewsX World. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Of course, this saga does continue. 3 million documents released today, along with thousands of videos and photos related to Jeffrey Epstein and, of course, the people who were associated with him. However, Todd Blanche in that press conference said himself that there seems to be a thirst for information here from the American public, a bipartisan thirst, may I add, and that the release of this cache of documents and other media will not quench that thirst. What do you think will, and how do you think this situation might develop?
Good morning, Thomas. Thank you for inviting me for your show. This is a very sensitive subject which is being discussed. And I hope and pray that the leadership of USA do not fall, are not targeted or fall prey to this particular incident. But the fact of the matter is, issue which you have raised, is that there are many more files which are held back. And the issue which is being raised by the Democrat Mr. Khanna, who had actually spearheaded the movement, he says that he needs to take a look and confirm whether those files which are held back by the Justice Department are not something which are holding back some sensitive issues against the present dispensation or otherwise. Number one. Number two, the situation that you are asking for is highly, I would say, sensitive. Uh, this will highlight people like Elon Musk, but I was going through some important document yesterday. He declined to go to the island. Same as Donald Trump, he doesn't figure anywhere. But there are people who are privy to the subject who claim that Donald Trump has been actually referred to number of times in most sensitive issues, which may undermine his current claim. So these kind of things are very, very extremely sensitive. Therefore, I would give it a pass to the media and the investigative agency. Let them come out with facts and figures, and then it will go ahead. But the point that you're trying to make, it may become a turning point in the history of America if it has got anything worthwhile, which is showing the political dispensation of the leadership in a compromising situation. That is the actually the turning point which one has to be wary of. If that happens, well, the Republicans or Democrats, either way, it will be a very serious setback to the political dispensation in the leadership of United States of America, more so being a superpower of the world order. Back to Thomas.
Indeed, and of course the release of these files, which were supposed to be released in mid-December of last year, has been controversial. That deadline was not met, and only a tiny fraction of files were released then. We now, of course, have many more, which I'm sure we're going to get trickles in of updates through that as officials go through those files that have been released today as the day goes on. However, it's been controversial. To say, that's the minimum that we can say. Do you think the DOJ here is pursuing maximum transparency as the law that was passed by Congress said it had to, or is it maximum damage control when it comes to this case?
There are multiple parts in your question. First part is I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. It's highly, I mean, you have been very modest and restrained in your expression or the language used. It's a very controversial issue. And secondly, about the openness or the transparency. You are spot on. There is no doubt that it lacks total, utter transparency and the accountability. I'm glad that they've made a law, and that's how things are coming out in tricklets and incremental manner. Had it not happened, perhaps the people who are responsible, they would have been having a field day, and this would have become a way of life in USA. So therefore, to say that the transparency is in somewhat it is coming to light, it is being practiced, but I would endorse your point of view in your question that USA has got much more to do to ensure transparency in this case because it reflects the character of the not the individual but the nation. What does the nation, the leadership want the people of America to follow and comply with? The culture. The culture is going to get vitiated if they do not actually come out openly and ensure transparency in the entire thing. At the moment, to reflect my thoughts in response to your question, I would say it is lacking transparency and accountability. There is a lot of hidden files which are yet to be disclosed or brought to the public notice. Back to you, Thomas.
Indeed, and of course, going back to that first release of Epstein files, we saw a controversial move where one photo of Donald Trump was indeed included in there and then suddenly disappeared. The DOJ then apologized, reinstated it, and of course, another hugely controversial thing is the amount of redactions that have gone on. What is not supposed to be redacted is political embarrassment, reputational harm to public figures, or mere association or social contact with Epstein, or the names of powerful people unless tied to a legally protected category. What is supposed to be redacted, of course, is the identification of those victims, which is what we have indeed seen. Donald Trump, this has been a mess when it comes to these released. Of course, the deadline hasn't been reached. We are getting files and files of blacked out pages. We're also, as we saw in that first release, got a image of Donald Trump taken back by the DOJ and then reinstated once the public had noticed it. What does this say about the way that the U.S. administration has handled this, and of course the American public's quench for further transparency?
Yeah, absolutely, Thomas. You made a very strong point. Firstly, the way the American administration has handled the thing, there is far from what was being desired or what is actually desired in the society. They are way off the mark nearest the average mark of transparency, accountability, and some kind of, I would say, the rule of law. Such a thing, I have already reflected earlier, that it reflects very poor, inferior quality of character of the nation. And they're trying to hide something which may actually collapse the nation as a superpower. They may become a third world or developing country very soon. They may have military might and the economic might, but coming to the very core value of the human society is going to be totally bankrupt. So under these circumstances, I don't think, in my opinion, that the American government has handled the Epstein file efficiently in an accountable and in a professional manner. They have lacked self-accountability, and I would say they have lacked the very deficiency of the core value of a human being part of this society, progressive and forward-looking society of a developed nation. And therefore, I would say that the country would do well if Donald Trump takes it seriously himself. He needs to introspect, because no matter what the society or the country or the world says, it is he who has to answer that if he was involved in the slightest of some kind of an involvement, which would actually indicate compromising the personality of a political leader in such a status, I think, in my opinion, he should put up his papers and apply for resignation. Back to you, Thomas.
Okay, Major General G, do stay with us as we move on to our next story. We stay in the United States for it, and protesters across the US gathered for a nationwide strike against US Immigration and Customs Enforcement, otherwise known as ICE, and President Donald Trump's immigration policies. In Denver, demonstrators danced and rallied in protest, while thousands took to the streets in Minneapolis following the fatal shootings of 2 US citizens by federal agents. The protests were part of a national shutdown calling for the withdrawal of immigration agents from the state. In other cities like California and New York, students and teachers joined the strike. And according to sources, ICE has expanded the power of its agents to arrest individuals without warrants. The protests and new ICE measures have fueled nationwide outrage over the ongoing immigration crackdown. Let's listen into what some of the protesters had to say.
I'm here because I'm an artist and symbols are really important to me. And the symbol of the Statue of Liberty has always been my favorite symbol of America. And what's going on right now with ICE in our city is not who we are. The Liberty statue is a symbol of light and welcoming to immigrants and opportunity. And going door to door and hunting down people and coming in the night with masks on is not who we are. And this has got...
We'll be known as the city that stood up for freedom. We're all together. We love each other. That's why I'm here. It's because I love my city, I love my country, and I love my neighbors.
We need to abolish ICE. We need to take back our constitutional rights, our First Amendment, our Second Amendment, all our Fourth Amendment, all our amendments, and we have to impeach everyone from the top down until we have an actual democracy. And I don't know what that looks like yet. I don't think anybody does. But we're waiting for it, we're pushing for it, and we're marching for it.
Dr. Satoru Nagao joins us now. He's a fellow at the Hudson Institute and he joins us live from Tokyo. Thank you very much, Dr. Nagao, for joining us here on NewsX World. It's a pleasure to have you. Of course, these protests have been ongoing for weeks now, and they've now spread nationwide, even worldwide, in some circumstances. How badly do these nationwide protests damage the United States' credibility when it lectures other countries about civil rights and liberties? Of course, you can cite Iran as an example, and these protests now have seen 2 people killed.
In this case, we need to remember that this is cracking down towards illegal immigrants. So legal or illegal is very important matter, even if immigration is legal in the country. So that's why this is controversial. The cracking down the illegal immigrants creates a problem because of the low quality of the work of the ICE. Because when we check the video, what happened in Minnesota is the ICE agent killed the victim after they took the gun. So this means that this is not follow the protocol. The breach protocol is happening, really happening. So that's why what kind of training they receive, what kind of the protocol they learn is the matter. So quality of the agent is indeed very bad. So that's why how to cracking down the ICE itself is a problem. The cracking down itself is a political matter. Of course, right versus left can fight. But what really happened in that place is indeed the quality of the work of the ICE agent is the matter. Despite this, this is quite a political issue because the background of this cracking down is quite political. Right-wing, the Republican side supports the cracking down the illegal immigrants, but the left-wing, the Democrat side do not like this because even if the illegal immigrants, they support the U.S. economy. So that's why as a reality, the U.S. needs these immigrants. So that's why the two are fighting each other and the battle. And so this is a political issue. Decision should make through the election or other things, discussion in the democratic country. And the current government is Republican. This means that cracking down is the decision the U.S. voter choose. So quality of the work is one thing, but political battle is another thing. So we should divide these two in this case, I think.
Dr. Nagao, do stay with us as we move on and we head to Latin America for our next story. And Venezuela's interim president, Delcy Rodriguez, has announced a proposed general amnesty law for political prisoners, aiming to address decades of political violence. Rodriguez has also stated that the law could lead to the release of hundreds of political prisoners, covering cases of political violence from 1999 to the present. However, rights groups have said that about 711 political detainees remain in custody, while the government claims hundreds have already been freed. In a related move, she confirmed the notorious El Helicoide prison in Caracas would be repurposed for social services and sport. Let's take a listen in.
Quiero anunciar que hemos decidido impulsar una ley de amnistía general que cubra todo el periodo político de violencia política de 1999 al presente. Y encargo que sea una ley que sirva para reparar las heridas que ha dejado la confrontación política, desde la violencia, desde el extremismo, que sirva para reencauzar la justicia en nuestro país y que sirva para reencauzar la convivencia entre los venezolanos y las venezolanas. Quedarán exceptuados de esta ley, tal como lo contempla nuestra Constitución, aquellos procesados o condenados por homicidio, por tráfico de drogas, por corrupción y por violaciones graves a los derechos humanos. Pido entonces.
Furthermore, Rodriguez also called for a new justice system to replace the current one, widely criticized for corruption and alignment with the Chavista regime. Let's take a listen in.
He decidido convocar a una gran consulta nacional por un nuevo sistema de justicia y pido la colaboración de todos. Esta tarea estará en manos igualmente de la Comisión de la Revolución por la Justicia que preside el vicepresidente sectorial Diosdado Cabello y por el Programa de Convivencia Democrática y para la Paz. Justicia, pido también medidas alternativas al castigo y a la punición para nuestros privados de libertad en el marco de una categorización de los delitos.
Joining us now is Major General Sudhakar G, a senior strategic and international affairs expert, joining us once again. Of course, we're now reaching nearly a month since Nicolas Maduro, the toppled president of Venezuela, was captured by United States forces and taken over to New York City to face a courtroom. However, we've seen strange developments when it comes to the government. Delcy Rodriguez, his former vice president, has now taken that role as interim leader. And we've seen her in some ways appease the US government in conducting some actions, these being one of them, the release of political prisoners. And now we're seeing her shut down this notorious prison inside the Venezuelan capital, which was notorious for torture, among other human rights abuses. Do you think this is a sign of genuine reconciliation or simply a rebranding of authoritarian rule?
Thomas, thank you for getting me back to your show. We need to understand the origin of Venezuela right since Spanish time till date. And the leftist regime took birth, came in a big way in 98 when Chavez became the president. After his death, Maduro. And we know what Maduro has gone through, how he's been subjected to sanctions and lots of restrictions. In a way, he perhaps is one living example. Despite all kinds of international sanctions, he still became the president based on an election, no matter it might have been corrupted or subjected to a lot of infiltration and malpractices. But the issue remains that there is a way of life which every Venezuelan is used to. There is a way of life. I am actually surprised. Yesterday only I was giving a talk to some international audience. It came out that at one point in time they had 130,000% of the inflation, hyperinflation. So the people, no means am I saying that there is depravity or there is any kind of this thing. They have got debt to GDP ratio is very high. The way of life, living standards are very costly. But at the same time, I personally feel that it has become the kind of a sanctuary of forces which are little away from the democratic norms. This liberal practice is at the moment which Vice President has actually done as per the demands of the America. It is just a temporary measure simply to toe the line. And my assessment, my gut feeling is that Venezuela will bounce back to its erstwhile practice unless they have some meaningful, substantive political leadership who are statesmen-like, who can steer the nation ahead. And for that, it requires sustained America support. And if America doesn't extend support the way they have assured now, then in foreseeable future, things will actually fall flat. They will go back to same kind of a governance which is misruled, mismanaged, full of corruption, etc., etc. This is my take. Back to you, Thomas.
And of course, that relationship between Donald Trump and Delcy Rodriguez, it seemed, of course, that the United States was going to be a lot more aggressive when it comes to taking control of Venezuela. However, we haven't seen that, at least not at this stage. How would you assess the way in which the United States has has gone about things. Of course, it's made a statement that it's going to control the country along with its oil reserves. It's had those meetings with those US oil leaders, but no visible steps in how it's going to move forward in running the country, as Donald Trump says.
You see, first and foremost, I must clarify, in my opinion, whatever America has done against Venezuela on 3rd of January and thereafter, it's not a thing which is to be accepted by the rule of law or by the rules-based international order, because this sets a very wrong precedent. But having done that, you see, the current political dispensation in USA has come under excessive pressure. Not only Venezuela, it's ICE, it is the Epstein file, it is the tariff, and the hearing from Supreme Court is still awaited, handling of immigrants, the price rise taking place despite the claim that economy is improving. I feel that America is heading for recession if it is not handled effectively. So such, and the political science of, I used to talk to people, use a phraseology called as, political civil war. America, whether you accept or not, Thomas, America is going through a political civil war as far as the present state is concerned. What I mean by this phraseology is that within Republican Party, you will have Republicans fighting against the Republicans. Within Democrats, you will have Democrats fighting against the Democrats. And there is also intra and inter, that is Democrats and Republicans will try to bring down each other. Why am I highlighting this point is, very soon there are 25 vacancies, seats which are falling vacant in Senate. Out of that, if I respect my memory, around 9 are Democrats and the rest are Republicans. There are some figures. Now, going by the present trend of popularity of the Republicans, I fear that like in previous couple of months, some of the provinces had gone to election. The Democrats have bounced back with thumping majority. Similar thing may happen. So there is a pressure building up on Donald Trump. Because of this pressure, they are not able to extend the kind of activities and the activity matrix which they are supposed to undertake. It is good that America soft pedals, slows it down. Otherwise, they are creating tremors world over. If they go too much into the country's administration, the big question of sovereignty and the territorial integrity of an independent country will be raised not by only Venezuelans, but the world over. Back to you, Thomas.
Major General G, as always, it's a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much for joining us and taking the time. We stay in Latin America for our next story, and a fire has broken out at Ecuador's largest oil refinery in Esmeraldas, prompting the activation of emergency protocols, according to state oil company Petroecuador. Petroecuador confirmed on X that the fire occurred in a slop pool located in an external area of the refinery, and firefighting teams responded immediately under the facility's contingency plan. The company stated that the incident remained under control, no injuries were reported, and refinery operations continued normally with production of petroleum derivatives proceeding as scheduled. Petroecuador indicated that the causes of the fire were under technical evaluation following industrial safety and risk management protocols. Now, the world of film and television is mourning the loss of Catherine O'Hara. The two-time Emmy-winning actor has died at the age of 71. Her manager says O'Hara passed away at her Los Angeles home after a brief illness. Her career spanned 5 decades, from Canada's Second City Television to Hollywood classics like Beetlejuice, Best in Show and the Home Alone films. She became a global favourite again with her Emmy-winning role as Myra Rose in Schitt's Creek, marking a remarkable late career renaissance. O'Hara also appeared in recent projects including The Last of Us and The Studio. The Walt Disney Company is preparing for a major leadership change. CEO Bob Iger has told associates he plans to step down and pull back from daily management before his contract ends on December the 31st. Disney's board is set to meet next week in Burbank to vote on a successor. Iger has said he wants to give the next leader a fresh start and avoid repeating the turmoil that followed his first exit in 2020. The shortlist has narrowed to 2 internal contenders: Experience's chief Josh DeMaro and entertainment co-chair Dana Walton, with prediction markets strongly favouring DeMaro. Iger is expected to remain for several months after the announcement to ensure a smooth transition. Well, that's all that we have time for this hour. Keep watching NewsX World for more international news updates.